Good morning. This is the time and place for the zoning administrator's hearing for December 3, 2008. My name is Edith Fuentes, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have 3 cases today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. Let me just quickly go through our hearing procedure. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. 1, that the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. 2, that there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. 3, that the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And 4, that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. For applications including parking reduction permit, the application shall also meet the procedures and criteria set forth in Section 30.32070A and Table 30.32B with qualifying project features. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the zoning administrator can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, or 300 feet if this is an old case, of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will read a description of the application or the request, and then read reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. The applicant will be asked to come forward stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and any interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak. Again, clearly stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and the case taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. I would like to emphasize that the date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from our Building and Safety Section for Meat Services Center located on the same floor of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name on one of these speaker forms which have been provided by the front door and submit it to our planning assistant. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the zoning administrator's hearing are recorded on tape as part of public record. Our first case is variance 2008024. Location is 917 Verdugo Circle Drive. Applicant is Samuel Koyoglanian, and property owner is Asador Koyoglanian. This is an application for standards and setback variance requesting to construct a new 400 square foot guest house with a 20-inch interior setback, which when combined with the existing single-family residence will exceed the maximum floor area ratio for the site, located at 917 Verdugo Circle Drive in the R1 low-density residential zone, floor area ratio District 1, described as Lot 20, tract number 12547. I have a letter from the law offices of Patterson, Rittner, Lockwood, and Zurich. Basically, they're going through the history of the existing 400 square foot structure at the back of the residence, which has been present since 1950. And okay. So basically, they're requesting for the whole project to go through the entire process. From engineering section, method of discharge of all on-site drainage shall be approved by the city engineer if there is any on-site drainage question. Separate permits are required for all work within the public right-of-way, or if you don't have any work within the public right-of-way, then that's okay. Applicant shall bear all fees in obtaining all necessary permits and construction inspections within the public right-of-way. The applicant shall also comply with all NPDES requirements, and additional requirements may be required after the initial submittal of final engineering plans for plans check. From Maintenance Services Administration, they have concerns regarding existing street trees which are currently growing in front of the proposed project. Their concern is to sustain the condition of all trees that will be required to remain and be protected during construction. They will require to protect and sustain the two trees. There are, I think, 2 coast live oak trees located on the right-of-way and follow city's protection standard specifications. They have attached the specifications, so you can get a copy of that just to make sure you're doing it the right way. Fire prevention engineering, they may be requiring fire sprinklers and permit if deemed to be necessary or required. From neighborhood services, they're basically recommending that the project meet setback requirements, and they have concerns about the proximity of the conforming garage structure to the north. So, okay. Also, if and should a kitchen be constructed or proposed to be within the second dwelling unit, that's not acceptable as far as the code is concerned, and it can only be used as a guest house. I think that's about it. Okay. 2% the case, Dr. Kohoglanyan.
Good morning, Zoning Council. Happy Wednesday to you all. I am Dr. Samuel Kojoglanian, an interventional cardiologist, and representing my parents, Asadur and Osana Kojoglanian. And the property in issue is 917 Verdugo Circle Drive. It's in an R1 zone, single-family residence. And this hearing is in regards to a grandfather house that's already existed since 1944 and actually was permitted in 1944. And the two issues we'll be talking about, one is the setback, and the other is the floor area ratio. The first is the setback, and this was again built in 1944, where the 6 feet requirement was not applicable at that time, and the structure was built and the city permitted it. And also for the floor area ratio, we're not adding whatsoever to the floor ratio. Whatever exists. We want to keep the integrity of what is there. We're renovating it and making it safe for my father, who had a neck injury and broke his second cervical bone and required a halo, and now by God's grace has the halo off and now has a cane, but is very unsteady on his feet. And Ms. Fuentes, there will be no kitchen, as you mentioned, in that area. It's just a haven for my dad to get physical therapy, so it's for compassionate use that we're doing it for him. I'd like to read the four things on the application, the four questions on the application, so I may answer it directly, if you will, and hopefully the council will understand what we're doing here. The first question is, what are the practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships associated with your project? And the answer to that is that this is a termite-damaged and wood-rotted structure built in 1944. I have a termite report, if I may hand this to you, Ms. Fuentes. That they have said that it is fungus-ridden, it is termite-ridden, it is not usable, and for right now we were using it for storage, but when my father had the accident, for compassionate reasons, again, we'd like to use it for him to get better and stronger in a very nice place. and the contractor discovered greater than 50% of the existing frame was damaged and therefore needed to be replaced. Your second question that the city asks us is, what is unique about the property involved or the intended use or development of the property as related to the variance request? And the answer is the existing permitted structure was since 1944, where once again the 6-foot setback was not applicable at that time. The third question is, why will granting of the variance not be detrimental to the public welfare as well as to our neighbors? Well, the building is retrofitted for the safety of not only the owner, but as well as for the neighboring properties. No new floor plan or area is being added once again, and we're asking the floor area variance to qualify for the 50% rule and not to add to the overall floor area. The fourth and last question is, why will granting of the variance be in keeping with the objectives of the applicable regulations? And the answer is the general plan promotes a single-family development. We are in an R1 zone and will fall within the limitations and regulations of accessory use. I wanted to go over with the council the 3 P's, if you will, of this project. The first P is protecting. We want to protect our neighbor who is beside us, or all the neighbors. The existing 400 square foot structure literally had a chimney that was falling apart, and actually our neighbor asked us, can you guys please do something about this? The bricks are falling and it could be detrimental to our neighbors. So that was one thing that we had our neighbors in mind when we were trying to do this, and we want to do this. The roof is falling, the shingles are falling when the wind blows, and it does blow in Glendale, y'all. And the rain comes pouring down, the parts of the roof were flying off, not only on our land, but also on our neighbor's land. And we thought this is not acceptable for our neighbor. And also my dad, I want to protect my father, who wore a halo, and I have a picture of that. If I may approach again, hand this to you. We almost lost our father 3 years ago in a bus accident here in Glendale. And by God's grace, he lives. And now he uses a cane, and he's very unsteady. And if the bricks are falling on our land, and if the roof is falling apart, well, my dad loves to work in the backyard. And let's be assured, Ms. Fuentes, that the trees will be preserved, because my dad takes care of the trees, and he likes to plant a garden there, and he likes to work around that area. And to heal his heart and his soul and his body, we'd like this structure to be there for him, not only as a safe place, but also as a place where he can get his physical therapy. So the first P is protection, not only for our neighbor, but also for my parents who are elderly and who have served the city for many years. The second P, if you will, is preserving. So the first was protecting, and the second P is preserving. We'd like to preserve what we have. We're not adding whatsoever. We're not pouring concrete. We're not adding 1 square footage to this place. It was already built as it was, and we're not adding to this structure. The integrity of the structure is going to be kept. The appearance will be the same as it was. Once the termite-ridden wood was taken off, the same kind of appearing wood will be placed. And again, no one in the neighborhood driving around can see this. So it's not it won't be seen, and it's not going to be an eyesore. We'd like to make it a beautiful place for my father. So we're preserving the structure as it is. And the third P is providing. I'd like to provide a haven for my father. He has done everything for me, my parents have, and this is a gift to them to rebuild this structure and to have compassion for him. I think we ought to be ruled by compassion. When I treat my patients and open up their heart arteries, anybody could do that, but not many people give compassion. And compassion makes a huge difference. And I cannot even begin to believe that somebody would go against compassion and try to stop it. But this is run and driven by compassion. It's to provide Dad a safe haven. Our lot is huge. As you can see in that picture up there, the green is all the landscaping, if you will, and the structure in the middle or to the left of it is where the existing house is.
Why don't you come up here and
Yes.
walk me through your site plan?
Thank you.
We have a pointer right there. There
Thank
you
you.
go.
This is my parents' lot. It is 917 Verdugo Circle Drive. It is almost 15,000 square foot. It is a huge lot, and it's flat. It's not on a steep hill whatsoever, but it is bumpy back here, and when the bricks and the roofs fall, my dad gets very unsteady, and he has fallen many times in the back. This is their house, existing house, and this is the structure that was built in 1944. It is not new. We are not adding whatsoever to this structure. And it is close to our neighbor's wall, which we, by the way, put up for our neighbor and ourselves. But that's the way it was built in 1944, where there were no regulations. So this lot here is almost 15,000 square footage. With this being built, and you add these two together, it is about 24.5% of the whole lot. And the landscaping area is about 45%. We're not taking away. We are not adding on. It is, once again, a haven for my father, who unfortunately had the accident, but by God's grace is living and is getting better on a daily basis. And that's what I wanted to talk to you folks about today, Ms. Fuentes. I even have the permit from 1944. They look a little different than the 2000 editions. So that's the permit that allowed the building to be there, and that's why it's so close to the neighbor's backyard. But it will be safer once it's renovated.
Yeah. Let me just ask the case planner a quick question. Gabe?
This was fun.
You mentioned in the applicant's proposal description that the floor area ratio, when combined, is going to exceed the maximum allowed by about 171 square feet.
That's correct.
What's the percentage of that, or
I can get that for you.
Okay. I need to know it's 30% versus whatever,
Understood. Okay.
or 0.30 versus whatever.
Okay.
Other than that, I've driven by the place a couple of times and have looked at the neighborhood, so I don't have any questions at this time. And thank you for the termite report
Yes.
and the picture here.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker is Susanna Delis.
Good morning. My name is Susanna Dellis, and I reside at 921 Verdugo Circle Drive. I'm here on my own time as a resident and a neighbor to the case property. First of all, I would like to state that in 1944, that structure was built as a playhouse. My parents and I have lived on that street since 1978, and we knew the original owners. And it was built as a playhouse for the 4 boys that lived there. It was completely falling apart. The shingles were in my backyard. It's true, everything the applicant said as far as the condition of that dwelling. It was so fallen apart that the applicant actually reconstructed it. And an enforcement was done by a building and safety inspector. So he had already completely reconstructed the entire structure. Mm-hmm. And as we know, there is no grandfathering when you reconstruct a structure. So it was gone, and then it was replaced with something new. And so that is why the setback standard would apply in this case, is because it should have met the requirement for today, not 1944. I have no issue with the applicant building on the property. The property is a large property. The issue is with the setback. This is a permanent structure, and there's no space for a person to walk behind it with a 20-inch difference from the property line to the structure. I have concerns that there would be debris, leaves, junk that would pile up between the structure and the wall. And that could definitely impact me. It could result in a fire hazard, rats, rodent and pest infestations, and that does concern me as the neighbor. I do not believe it is possible to meet the 4 findings required to grant the variance. The property is not unique. Actually, it is huge. It is, as the applicant stated, a flat lot of land, 12,000 square feet, and there is more than enough space to construct a structure that meets the setback requirement. Also, furthermore, granting the variance would be detrimental in terms of fire safety and maintenance for myself. I do request that you deny the variance and require the applicant reconstruct the structure to meet the setbacks requirement for today. That's all I have. Thank
I
you.
have a couple of questions, sir. You said your parents have lived there since 1978.
Correct.
Do you know when the applicant moved in there? How
Gosh,
long have they been there?
was that 6 years?
Just the last 6 years?
Right. It's been quite recent.
Okay.
And they did make a large addition to the main house. The main
And
house.
have they not touched the existing structure? You know, it's going to remain where it is. It's going to be, he could have just done repairs and
They could have.
it could stay where
Well,
it is.
Well, actually, the entire structure was falling to pieces,
I know,
as
but
the applicant said.
had he done bits
Had-
and pieces of
Correct,
repair,
correct.
it would still stay there the way it is and maybe just a little bit improved.
That would have been a
Okay.
possibility.
The reason I'm asking you is I'm trying to get to the bottom of what's the main concern. You're talking about fire issues and the existing structure, I'm positive it's not fire rated at all. It didn't meet building code or fire code. Whereas the new structure, I'm assuming, if approved, would be required by building and fire code to be at least 1 hour rated. And
Right. My concern is the reason that we do
hold on. And the other reason I'm telling you this is if they are able to prove that this was really termite, fungus, dry rot infected, then I've been allowing a lot of people to rebuild because of termite and and dry rot and fungus infected type of structures. But I will look at all the things you've told me, like originally this was also built as a playhouse, not as a guest house. Back in 1944, we may not even have a definition of a playhouse in our code, but I'm going to go through all that, motion. And
I do have just one very brief comment. Also, it is visible. It's very
From the
visible.
street.
Not only from the street, but from my property.
I know that. Anything could be seen from the side property or even at the back side of the property. And I did that. I drove around, kind of look from this side. I didn't go into your property, but I may, one of these days. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in support or in opposition to this application? Seeing none, closing comments, 5 minutes.
Thank you. I am shocked at my neighbor. I'm not appalled, but I am shocked. I'm shocked because she says that this structure is close to her place, yet she has a structure as similar as ours, and I wish I could give the audience.
You're going to have to, doctor, you're going to have to talk to me, not to them.
I wish you could see this. She has a structure that is maybe, I don't know how big it is, it looks 400 square foot at least, and she And that was built there, so she's not concerned that that structure may harm us, or that she may have leaves behind there. And she's actually put a second structure, which I'm not sure what the legal reasons are, or is it permittable, a second shack there that's about 2 feet away. So one, she has an existing building there that's abutting next to our wall. Number 2, she has put a shack there and has put a tree right beside there that is dangerous to our property, and she has put hazardous material right beside our wall. I'm shocked. This borderlines hypocrisy to me. This is not compassionate. This is, I don't know, bordering on what, but it's not compassionate whatsoever. So we're taking an old and we're making a new. We're taking something fungus-ridden and we're making it healthy. We're making something that can be very hazardous, and we're making it into a safe haven and place, not only for ourselves, but for our neighbor, because that's the golden rule. Treat each other as you want to be treated. And I don't know what ground she has to stand on. In fact, we built the beautiful wall, and we allowed them to put plants on the wall. They asked us, they were gracious enough to ask us, if I were concerned about rats, I'd be concerned about the ivy or whatever she has put on the walls and not the building. So my plea to the council is one of compassion, of protecting not only our neighbor, but my dad, to preserve it and not to change it. We're just making it newer and usable, and to provide my dad for a safe haven, and at the same time provide my neighbor with a safe building. Thank you, Ms. Fuentes. Thank you, council.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
You mentioned when you hired a contractor and then they started working, that's when everything started falling apart. Although by looking at it, you can see from the picture that it was not in good shape. Or is your contractor just a regular contractor, general contractor, or?
He's a general contractor.
General contractor. Can you get or submit some kind of a statement from him? I want it signed by him, as far as describing the condition of the building when he started working on it.
Yes.
And if he's a general contractor, I was just really concerned that he didn't take did he pull some kind of a permit to start the repair or construction?
When we began this project, we hired someone who, by God's grace, I had saved his life. He was having a heart attack. He came to my hospital. I got to open up his heart artery, and by God's grace, he was alive and well. And then he said he would, do anything to help us out. And because he said that this was permitted in 1944, that it's okay, so we took his word. My parents actually trusted him, and I don't live here. I live 30 miles away, so my parents were taking care of things, and because of the trust in him, he started building, and lo and behold, we found out that he didn't pull a permit. Mm-hmm. After he had taken off some of the termite-ridden wood, the city came and said, what are you guys doing? You can't do this without a permit. Then I got involved saying, we do have a permit. And they said, no, you don't. We ultimately pulled a permit, a legal permit, and we were allowed to renovate this place. But 10 days later, we had a note from Alex saying that the permit that you received and the work that you've done exceeds what the permit allows. Okay. You need a variance.
Then, like I said, I'm just going to need some kind of a statement from the general contractor, just basically describing the condition that he found in there. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Seeing there's nobody else here, or this was the closing comment, I'm going to go ahead, take this case under submission, and we'll let you know. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next case is variance 2008034. Location is 2087 West Mountain Street. Thank you, Gabe. Applicant is Garo Nazarian. Property owner is Richard Ayub. This is an application for a standards variance to allow the construction of a 214 square foot addition to an existing single-family dwelling which exceeds the maximum allowable floor area ratio and without providing an additional enclosed parking garage or space located at 2087 West Mountain Street in the R1R Restricted Residential Zone, Floor Area Ratio District 1, described as a portion of Lot 3, tract number 5607. And let me just quickly go through some of the comments we received. From engineering section, method of discharge of on-site drainage shall be approved by the city engineer, and separate permits are required for all work within the public right-of-way. Applicants shall comply with all NPDES requirements, and additional requirements may be required after the initial submittal of the final engineering plans for building plans check. From traffic and transportation, just a note or a comment that any on-site parking shortfall would need to be accommodated on-street, i.e. Mountain Street. On-street parking is permitted on both sides of Mountain Street. So, okay, that's the only, or those are the only comments I have to present the case. Garo Nazarian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Garo Nazarian, 109 East Harvard, Suite 306 in Glendale. We are requesting this 214 square feet addition to existing single-family structure. The history is years ago we did an addition to this building, and the lifestyle or the needs of the owners, it was to add that back portion to accommodate their needs. In that time, there was a protected tree in the corner that we are trying to add now, and because the owners, even they are loving trees, they didn't touch the tree, and they notched the construction, plans to keep the protected tree there, sycamore tree. But the tree, it has been died or fall, I don't know, damaged last year. And now, after when the tree is not there, the owner thought that he can now build his dream plan, because the house has no, next to the kitchen, a nook or, sitting area for the family. We are asking to add that 214 square feet. In that time that the original permit, it has been put for the addition.
Can you show me on the site plan the exact?
This is the area that we are asking to do addition.
I know, because you're showing this other one, so what's
No,
that other
this
side?
one? This is the existing garage.
Okay.
This is the existing garage. We are asking to add that 214 square feet. If it's a two-story building, but we are asking for, addition,
On the
just
ground
one is
floor.
on the ground floor,
Okay.
not the two-story, just a ground floor addition in that area.
So that's the family room right here.
Yes.
Keep going.
And in that time, the FAR was much higher, but this recent zoning change that dropped the FAR, now it's pushing us to file a variance because we are exceeding the FAR. And for the parking issue, as you see on the plans, we are adding a family room, a kitchen nook area. We are not adding any bedroom, or we are not adding any more occupant to this building that it requires more parking spaces as a use-wise. The code-wise, I'm not talking. But of course, we are asking to 214 square feet addition, which exists the FAR issue, and to keep the two-car garage, not to provide...
And just to make it clear, the addition triggers a third parking
Addition triggers now.
space requirement, so just to make it clear. Okay.
Yes, this addition, because if not, it's a grandfather, no code requirement to making a three-car garage, yes.
Okay.
And it's a single-family area, residence, and the addition, it's in the rear of the proper, existing house, which is not visible from the street, and we are not asking any other, the setback variance or whatever, we comply with the today's setback height, and the lot coverage and the landscaping, everything we are, the property, the lot coverage 40% allowed, the lot coverage is 21%. It's half of what is maximum allowed, and the landscaping, it is 48% instead of the 40%.
So this is the area where you're going to have the...
Correct.
So right there.
Yeah, this is the area
Yeah.
that we are to extend this wall and this wall
Okay.
together to enclose that corner.
Did you have any communication or conversation with the neighbors?
Yes, actually, the owner is here, that he
Oh, okay,
has the...
so I'll ask the owners
Yeah,
that
petition, for that the neighbors, I don't know how many of the neighbors...
Yeah,
they
because
support.
I see a big crowd here today. So. Okay, good.
If you have any other question?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Richard Ayub. Tell me about your neighbors.
Thank you, Ms. Fuentes, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. This is a great part of the
You're
government to
Mr.
be able to-
Richard Ayub, the property owner, right?
Yes, I'm Richard Ayub. I reside at 2087 West Mountain Street. We've been 25-year residents of Glendale. Just to put a little finer point on what Mr. Nazarian said, we did want to move out of the neighborhood, and as our family expanded, we decided to add on, but we had a protected sycamore there that had been there from day one. So we actually built up and knocked back and notched our family room and kitchen and did not have an integrated room as custom would be. Unfortunately, despite much care, the tree in a storm lost a huge branch. We nursed it along for a couple of years, but finally had to take the tree out pursuant to a city order. In fact, I saw on the TV screen just before I came in about the protected trees, and we've been very diligent in protecting that and the jacaranda.
You took a permit to remove
Yes,
the
we
tree,
did.
right?
Yes, we did, and we've complied completely. The patio that was shaded by the tree and is off of the family room and the kitchen there is now just bare. And all we want to do is not add any bathrooms, any bedrooms, no additional what I'd call sleeping space. So we aren't increasing the, if you will, the density, but we're just merely wanting to expand this to what we would have otherwise done and have been prevented from doing for about 18 years, of having an integrated family room and kitchen. I've talked with the neighbors. I have two letters, one from a neighbor directly across the street and one from the neighbor next door. I see when Rick did his letter, he didn't put in his complete address, but he's immediately to the east of our property, and actually we have adjoining driveways, so he looks into our backyard completely. The other's from Mr. Stevenson, who's across the street, if I may approach and hand you those.
Thank you.
I know I only have limited time, but if I may just give you a quick description. Mr. Amaya, who's at, I think his address is 2083 or 2081, I'm not sure, but again, he's adjoining next door. He would be the one that would be impacted by a garage if we added to the garage, because our garages both sit on the property line, and it would severely impact his view if we did anything to the garage. Also, we have put in a pool, and the pool equipment behind the garage keeps us from going back. We can't come any closer to the house, so the additional parking on site would be a problem. As a practical matter, two of our kids are up and out, so we don't have a parking problem at all, and our on-street parking is minimal. Mr. Stevenson, who's across the street, would be the one that would be impacted by that. He confirms that there's no view from the street. So I think I'd be happy to answer any questions, but just in terms of trying to make the house the way we always dreamed it would be, and to have that integrated family room where we spend all our time is really what we're trying to do here. For 18 years, we've lived around the tree, and now are trying to, recapture, if you will.
You're trying to move on in the loss of the tree.
Well,
right?
and it was funny, my wife cried because the kids would swing in the tree and everything, and we had to take the tree out. It was a tough, you never think you get attached, but we did. But I'd be happy to answer any questions, comment on any of the points. It is a unique situation, mostly because of the tree, and that's the reason for our request. Anything else?
Well, I have no question.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in support or opposition to this application? Do you have any closing comments, Mr. Nazar? Okay, good. I'm going to go ahead, take this case under submission, and we'll let you know. Thank you very much for coming. Our last case is PPR 2008-011. Applicant is Salvador and Deborah Bermudez. This is an application for a parking reduction permit to allow the construction of additional floor area to an existing single-family house without providing the required two covered and enclosed parking spaces. Property is located at 1153 Green Street in the R1R Restricted Residential Zone, Floor Area Ratio District 3, described as Lot 14, Block A, Track Number 4770. And just quickly going through the comments. From fire prevention, if the valuation of the construction exceeds 50%, they may require you to have automatic fire sprinklers. So you may want to double check with the fire department. From engineering section, they would like you to submit a grading or drainage plan for review and approval, and shall be made part of the retaining wall or building plans. Method of discharge of all on-site drainage shall be approved by the city engineer. Separate permits are required for all work within the public right-of-way. Applicants shall comply with all NPDES requirements, and additional requirements may be required after the initial submittal of final engineering plans for building plans check. Okay, no major issue or concerns from other departments. To present the case, Deborah Bermudez.
Okay. Okay, well, basically, we need...
Give me your name and address
Oh, I'm sorry,
for
Deborah
the record,
Bermudez, and
please.
it's 1153 Green Street. Okay, basically, we wanted to add on, there's 4 people living in a 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, and so we wanted to add on another bathroom and a bedroom. And when we did, we found out that we had to do a 2-car garage. The only problem, well, big problem is, our garage is street level, but our backyard is not street level. Backyard drops down about 4 or 5 feet, well, yeah, about 5 feet or so. So that's why we're asking for the parking reduction, just because our site conditions don't warrant it. I mean, it's level, our driveway, our garage is level with the street, but can I come up there? Okay.
Yes, sure, why don't you?
Thanks. Okay, this is the garage, right here, and this is cement here, but then it drops about 5 feet here into our backyard. So there's basically no room to put the garage there. This is the addition, this is what we want to add on right now. If we had to do...
How many square feet addition?
I think it's like 560,
Okay.
yeah. Give or take, roughly about that. So, I mean, there's just basically, having to put this out there and then the drop down, the site conditions don't warrant the garage. Also, our tortoise is underneath the garage.
Keep going.
Basically, I don't know.
You're going to have to go through the 4 findings, and do you have a copy of your application?
Oh, this
Yes.
okay, the 4 findings.
You're going to have to go through them and
I'm sorry, is that number D that I need to go through?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, tell me if this is the wrong one. Explain why the need for parking or of your use is not as great or as the other similar land uses. Well, no new people will be living in the house. It's still the same 4 people. Like I said before, right now there's 4 people living in a 2-bedroom, and we just wanted to add the 1 bath and bedroom. For each use, provide the number of spaces required for each land use on an hourly basis between 6 and midnight and typical Saturday and Sunday. We're residential. This didn't make a whole lot of sense to me when I had to do it. So the residential use requires 2 spaces for homes under 35,000 square feet is what the So it's, it didn't make a whole lot of sense because it didn't sort of pertain to our usage. Describe how the parking requirements established in the zoning code is greater than what will actually be needed by the proposed land use. Parking code requires 2-space land use in a single-family house, which requires 2 enclosed parking spaces for home less than 35,000 square feet. I don't know what to, I mean, we don't use the garage that's there right now. We have our driveway has 2 cars.
You have a wide enough
Wide enough driveway,
to accommodate additional parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Explain how existing parking demand is currently provided and why it's sufficient to serve the proposed use and future uses. I currently have an existing 1-car garage site. I lack 1 required parking space. We are on a corner lot. Parking demand is not as high. We have front all around to park. And do I do the number 5 too?
Yeah. Do they allow, let me just ask you the
Okay.
question so you can basically,
Okay.
on-street parking is allowed in your,
Yes.
within
Yeah.
the neighborhood?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
no
There's no
permit.
red
No.
curb or, okay.
No, it's strictly residential. There's no permit parking. There's no we don't have, Tuesday you can't park on the left side, Wednesday you can't park on the right side. It's all same parking everywhere.
How long have you lived there?
We've lived there 35 years.
35 years.
Yeah.
And parking provision has always been sufficient? as
Yeah,
far as-
it's never been an issue, no. Yeah.
See, you just answered all the questions.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you very
All
much.
right, thanks.
Barbara Cummins? This is one of the good neighbors. Taking the time to come here and express her concerns or support.
My
Go
name
ahead.
is Barbara Cummins. I'm at 1214 Tyler. You might say I'm across the street from the garage.
Uh-huh.
They face Green, and I'm on Tyler. And my folks bought the house in 1942, so we've lived there on and off all of these years.
46 years.
Let's see, there would be no problem the way the garage is now, and their parking situation is fine. That wouldn't inhibit anybody from everybody has about 3 or 4 cars that live on the street. There's only about 6 houses on the street on each side.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very short block. And I have no objection, whatever. As far, I'm just happy that they're being able to expand. The house is very small. And I think if they had to put on a
Car garage.
car garage, it would infringe on what a little bit of lawn they would have, and it would bring it right up to the new addition, practically. It would bring it out quite a bit. Plus I'm thinking for them, the drop-off, they would have a lot of fill, have to build a new wall, a lot of additional construction for that purpose for no reason, because they park outside, we park outside, and there's no reason. If there's any parking problem at all, it's always the people around the corners, in the apartments, wherever, and it costs for jockeying around for parking places, but they have no problem. There's no problem with them on the whole street. So I approve whatever they plan to do, if that makes any difference.
Thank you very much for coming. Okay, seeing there's nobody else here to speak in support or in opposition, do you have any closing comments? Okay, that's good. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead, take this case under submission. We'll let you know. And I'm closing the public hearing at 10:32 in the morning. Thank you very much for coming.